So we just got a couple of questions that people put up. We're just going to ask Jack quickly. First one is, I'd like to have heard him finish explain how things are physically now, if he has an SPC or what's it,
Urostomy bag.
Urostomy.
So yeah, I haven't got a SPC for the person you may not understand, but it's a suprapubic catheter, which is like a tube that helps drain the urine from your abdominal pubic wall, as far as I know. And then a urostomy bag is obviously a bag that basically you use to hold your fluid and your urine. I was so lucky I didn't have to have any of that. I know I weren't far off from that. My bladder is, like I've said through the podcast, his capacity is still no more than 150 mil. I don't think they'll ever get better. But the pain, which was the unmanageable part of this, is gone. So now, really, other than going to the toilet a hell of a lot, I don't have no severe consequences at the moment from my ketamine use. I'm really glad that I didn't have to have a catheter or a bag. I sort of missed that part. I just got saved, and that's just from stopping early enough. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And then we got one. Anyone know of any good ways of getting off? Just stopping doing it doesn't work, and I've been to counselling. So I think we've covered a lot of that from our point of view. But
so yeah, like I said, I'm just going to come from my experience. I've done that. Went through the drug and alcohol services, counselling, everything that I could think of. But in the end, I just had to realise that I have no control over this disease. I have no choice, and start putting steps. And my steps were going to rehab for the third time, going to secondary housing, and starting to make them changes. I really had to realise that doing the same thing I'm not going to get nowhere. I've got to put drastic changes in, and it's got to be recovery based. Tried going on holidays, doing all that, running away from the addiction, but I couldn't, because the addiction's me, right? It's in me. So yeah, I just had to rely on professional services and really know that I can't do it on my own. That's it. It's easier said than done, I understand that, but I feel like you'll understand when you get to that point where I got to, where there's either death here or a chance of living a life. Just that's it, really, isn't it? That's sort of how I can answer the question. There ain't really no other way around it. Just keep coming back, keep trying. That's all I say. Do not give up. Just keep trying, innit? That's it.
And I guess we've got one here that says, great story, but what about when you can't afford rehab and therapists? I think that's true, but again, because we live in, this is from England, we have the social services, so if you go to your GP, then he'll probably refer you to a local drug and alcohol agency like Turning Point or Change Grow Live, and I think they will have programs and therapies, and if they feel the need and have the funding, they could also probably help you get into rehab. But that would be your starting point, is going along them. And of course, all of the Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous are absolutely free of charge, and they're in pretty much every town and city most days of the week in England, and there you will find people like Jack who have found a way out. So you may need their support even if you do go in and you do get treatment and you do go into rehab. So it's always worth turning up at them if possible. But really, if you have no finances, you've got to go to your GP and get a referral to a local drug and alcohol agency. And maybe you can let us know how that went in the comments. Hope it goes well for you.
Can I just echo
go ahead.
what you said as well? I know I've been lucky enough to be given treatment by my family. I know that I'm a lucky one, and not everyone has the opportunity in their life to be able to go through private treatment, because, as we know, it costs a lot of money. However, I've seen people have nothing, go to the fellowships, as Lester just said, like whether it's CA, NAAA, and get clean in their hometown from horrendous situations, from ketamine and all other drugs. There's hope there. You just got to be vulnerable and get through the door, and let the people in that fellowship help you and guide you. And just grit your teeth and get through it, because I promise you it does get better. And even if you go to rehab, you got to come out. From my experience, I had to come out and still do the fellowship anyway. So even though I learnt a lot in rehab, the fellowship is my solution today, the program I work. So yeah, just never give up. And yeah, that's what I want to say on that one.
Cool. And then there's a few people ask, how do I stop the consequences? That would be like harm minimalisation.
Yeah. I lived in this delusion that it ain't going to get no worse. It's not going to happen to me from the beginning. And this is not just around ketamine. But with ketamine, I generally thought it weren't going to be me potentially pissing in a bag, pissing myself, pissing blood, cramped over, in agony, going to hospitals, crying my eyes out saying my bladder's going to burst. But unfortunately, while I was using ketamine, the consequences were always there and only ever getting worse. You can't use ketamine intravenously, intramuscularly, orally, without consequences. Fair enough if you're using minimally or recreationally, but I'm here talking about the chronic addict that uses every day, like me. And no matter how I use Ket, I am getting consequences. In my experience, I was getting consequences, and they were only getting worse. It weren't only and I tried every other thing to try and mitigate them consequences. Drinking this certain drink, drinking 3 litres of water a day, everything. Going on opioids, nothing worked. While I was still sticking that devil of a powder up my nose. It weren't until I got clean and stopped the drug that I really realised that my body started recovering. Didn't think it would at first, but it did. I know this sounds really cliche, it's just you've just got to stop. But like Lester said, substitute. You've got to substitute where you have the ketamine here, you've got to substitute it with recovery. Whether that be smart recovery, 12-step fellowship recovery. Mine's 12-step fellowship recovery. But yes, there's got to be a sufficient substitute.
I guess because I use it, I notice, again, even when you Google ketamine, you get a lot more microdosing seems quite popular, but it's like alcohol, is it? Alcohol is not really good for your body, but taken in small quantities, it's probably not going to do you any long-term harm. But it seems with the ketamine, like you say yourself, it's got a corrosive nature to it that it's very corrosive for your internal organs, and so at a certain level, it doesn't matter who you are, it's going to start damaging your body. So either very tiny amounts for a short period of time may do some good, like all medicines really. All medicines have a downside. It's just when you start abusing it that it becomes corrosive. And so
like anything, right?
Like anything.
Yeah, if you drink too much alcohol, your liver.
Anything.
And what I'll say as well is if you're listening to me and you're early in the use of ketamine or you're in and you feel the consequences and you're sitting there thinking, oh, that ain't going to happen to me, to scroll down the comments and look at some of the comments on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and see that there's people that are dying from this disease where their organs are shutting down. Because once your bladder's ruined, your kidneys are affected, your liver's affected, and it's not just me. Look at the comments, you'll see hundreds of comments where people saying they're in the same situation as I've been.
Yeah, it's being honest with yourself. Again, it's like alcohol. Obviously, a lot of people drink. I'm an alcoholic, so, you know, I abstain completely. I haven't had a drink in over 30 years. But I don't have a problem with other people drinking because a lot of the people that drink around me drink sociably. They drink, you know, like my wife, she won't drink when she's got a problem. You know, and I've only probably ever seen her drunk maybe twice. Mostly she'd just have a drink, mostly one drink, sometimes two, but very rarely more than that.
That don't register
Oh,
with me.
no, you drink half a glass of wine and put it in the fridge for a day or two.
Mm.
So again, it's like, you know, it's to create the same analogy with drugs seems a little bit different, but you know, the people that use drugs sociably probably not going to be a massive problem. So I used to have this saying: if alcohol's costing you more than money, then you've probably got a problem with it. So, you know that if you're honest with yourself and that you're using too much too often, then and you can't stop or moderate, then you're probably going to need some professional help. And again, you maybe keep trying lots of different ways to control your drug use, but failing all the time. When I say all the time, I don't mean every time, because sometimes you may, you know, get it right, but overall, that is problematic to you. And again, it's probably, again, if you go and speak to the people around you that are your friends, not the other drug users, but family members and loved ones, that they'd probably say, look, it's getting a bit much. You know, and again, it doesn't have to be drugs. Same with food. If you're eating too much food, you start getting fat. The people around you tell you, you're getting fat. You need to calm down a little bit. So it's an illegal drug anyway, as far as I know, that people shouldn't be doing unless it's under a certain prescription. So, you know, I'm a drug abuser, so I'm very careful what medications that I use, and I always stick to the prescription. If I go beyond that, then I'm going into drug abuse. You know, it's like if you're taking, you know, it says take 2 paracetamol every 4 hours, you start taking 4 every 2 hours, that's drug abuse. If you start taking 2 every 3 hours, that's drug abuse. I think if you're not following the prescription, you're into drug abuse. And if you can't stop that or moderate it, then you're probably going to need professional help. So, not really a question, but somebody wrote this, so we think we wanted to read it out. They said, people worldwide are self-medicating because we all feel something is wrong with ourselves or the world. It's not easy to come off heavy drugs. It's a lifelong battle for many of us. You're not alone. And that's true. There's a lot of people who have these struggles. Doesn't matter how low down you've gone or how far down the scale or spiral. Doesn't matter how low that you've gone in your addiction. You're going to find somebody worse or at least equal. So that's what's always good to rock up at the NA meetings, the CA meetings, the AA meetings, because you'll find a group of people that really understand where you're coming from because they've been there and they got the T-shirt. So hopefully that's answered some of your questions. Mm-hmm. Any more questions? Leave them in the comments section. And
I got one here.
Go ahead, mate.
That a lot of people have been asking me, like, is there any medication that you can take to help with the consequences? And I've told everyone, yeah, I'm obviously not a doctor, not a physician, not medically trained, and all that I echo to people is when they go to hospital or their doctors, I know it's harmful for our ego or we're scared, but unless we're honest with the doctor or the consultant and say we're on ketamine, they can't help us. And it's better to be honest, because there is some tablets that can and have helped slightly with my bladder when it was at its worst. So unless we be honest to the doctors, to the consultants, we're fighting a losing battle. And I've done that for 5 years, not telling them I'm on a ketamine and getting told I've got all these problems, and they were a bit stumped to why I've got all this. But it wasn't until I'm honest that they could tailor some sort of treatment to give me a little bit of relief. So if you're out there and you're suffering, I know it's hard, but please just try and be honest with the consultants, because you will progress to somewhere that, like University College of London, for example, that know a lot about ketamine, or bladder places in Bristol. You will, if the consultants can't give you the right treatment, or they don't have a lot of knowledge, you will go up the scale when you speak to someone that will in the end. But yeah, that's all I want to say, is just get to your doctor, get to your consultant, and just be honest with them, so then you can get the ball rolling to start getting treatment. But yeah, on that one, Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Cool.
Quality stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. God bless.
God bless.